Alright, in this video, I want to talk a little bit about this guy, Eric Dubay. And to start off, I want to use him as a bit of an example, because I was listening to a few things he says here and there, and a little bit of his video about Jesus not even existing as a man on earth. Now, some people deny that he's God, deny his miracles, but he has a whole 2 hour plus video about how Jesus never even existed at all. But anyway, I want to get into why people end up rejecting Jesus and God, and why I see this guy has rejected Jesus. Because he can see that the earth is flat. He can see that there's a creator, that we are a creation. Yet he denies Jesus. Like, he can't see Jesus. And I find that odd and interesting. And I think I can see why now. Because he has eyes to see. He can see how established religion, namely Christianity, through Catholicism, the Orthodox Church, the Protestant churches, that these organized religions of Christianity are full of worldliness, hypocrisy, and a lot of times perverted stuff. So that would deter a lot of people. And that makes sense. I get it. It deterred me as a child. My dad was a Catholic. My mom was a Jehovah's Witness. Yet my dad was like, this Christmas, Easter stuff is bullshit, even though he's Catholic. And my mom, who's a Jehovah's Witness, would celebrate Christmas and Easter, even though that's against the Jehovah's Witness belief. So I saw a lot of hypocrisy and contradiction. And like, what the hell does Santa Claus and Easter Bunny have to do with God and Jesus and all this? Yeah, I completely get it. But the problem is, if you believe in God, if you believe in Jesus, why don't you go to God? Why don't you go to Jesus instead of man and man-made organizations? It's what I did. It just doesn't make any sense that you wouldn't go straight to God. Like, you know he's the creator. Why not go to him and talk to him instead of some man who's saying, "Oh, I talk to him. I can get to him, and I established this whole organization, and I got all these followers under me." Well, what makes that guy any more special than you? What makes the Pope, the cardinals, bishops, priests, pastors, evangelicals, all these leaders, well, how are they any better than you? How are they any different than you? They are just as man as you are, and in some cases, just as woman as you are. If they can go to God, so can you. If they can go to Jesus, so can you. You don't need them. And you don't need their organizations either. And I know he's a little bit familiar with the Bible because he talks about how the Bible speaks about creation and the flat earth. So he knows there's truth in there. But think about this. When God brought Israel out of Egypt, he didn't want them to have a king. He didn't want them to rule over one another. And he warned them that how horrible it would be if they had a king. But they still wanted a king. They wanted to be like the rest of the world instead of being different, and they got themselves a king, and it was bad for them ever since. And then Jesus came, and his disciples wanted to sit, a couple of them wanted to sit on his right hand and his left hand in his kingdom. And he said, "You're not to be like the rest of the world, the rest of the nations. You're brethren, you're not to rule over one another." And when he left, his disciples, they sold all they had, and they helped each other out. The tithes weren't for a special class of priests that are above the layman. That was something that came later, that separation. Everybody was equal. We're all brethren, and the tithes were there to help everybody. Today you see with the churches that You give tithes to the churches because the tithes are for them, for the pastor, the leader, for the pope, not for you. If there's something that's needed to help the poor, well, then we'll do a raffle, we'll do a food drive, we'll do a bake sale, we'll do something where we'll get you to give what you have with your money and your goods to help out the poor. But the church ain't going to do that. It ain't going to do it for you. It's not going to do it for anybody else. It's going to hoard that up for themselves. And it's going to tell you to pray and to, give of yourself. But they're not going to be an example and do it. That's why Jesus said, do as they say, but not as they do. Talking about the religious leaders, these Pharisees and Sadducees. Because they'll say it. A lot of these people, they'll say the good things, but we can all see that they don't follow it. And that's what deters us away from them. And that's why I think he went away. And ultimately, he saw them as a representation of Jesus. And that's why he rejects Jesus. Because that's what he thinks of when he thinks of Jesus, is all the man-made organized religions and all the hypocrisy and bullshit. And I get that. But it's ultimately the wrong thing to do. Because Christianity, eventually they wanted a king, they put themselves up a pope, and it just became really bad ever since. And we're all just supposed to be brothers and sisters, taking care of one another. And we've gotten far from that, and we don't see that. We don't see what Christianity really is. We don't really see Jesus. Because we don't go to Jesus ourselves. We don't go to God ourselves. We go to man and man's organized religions. Trying to find God. Trying to find God through other men. And that's a real lack of faith, is what it is. But anyway, the reason why I'm doing this, and I'm pointing out this guy here, because there's myself and many others who talk about what he talks about. The flat earth, evolution, Zionism, Freemasonry, Jesuits in the Vatican. We talk about these things, but this guy gets way more hype. Yet I watched a video where he's talking about how he basically brought the flat earth into the mainstream through YouTube and what have you. And he wants to debate people like Neil Tyson deGrasse, and he's basically being ignored and not invited to these flat earth conferences stuff where all these new guys who are talking about the flat earth years after he started it, they don't bring him in on that stuff. And he's talking about how there's shills trying to make flat earthers look stupid, and I agree with him, right? And he's trying to make it seem like he's some kind of outcast, yet he's still able to make YouTube videos. I've had 5 channels where not only was my content just demonetized, my content blocked from people seeing it, eventually just removed, but my channel is completely shut down for saying things that he says. Not because I was following in his footsteps. It just happened to be on the same path. I say the same thing, and I can't say shit. I'm censored completely. I start up a new channel. I just started a new channel like not even a month ago. I'm going to see how long that lasts. I've already had one of my videos not even allowed to be shown. As I uploaded it, it said, nope, we're removing this. So it seems like it's already starting. We'll see how long this channel lasts. It's on YouTube here. Jesus gives you balls. But anyway, so I was thinking about that, and I was realizing the only difference between me and this guy is Jesus. Ultimately, Jesus is the source. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And the ultimate truth is Jesus. And this guy rejects him. And he might not even realize that that's what he's doing. He may honestly think Jesus didn't exist, and he's just doing his thing because he mainly doesn't really talk about Jesus. I just thought it was weird that he had that video. That a lot of people are going to learn about this guy and through a lot of the truth that he's saying, and it makes a lot of sense. And then they're going to see that whole Jesus thing, and he's leading them astray. So even though he's leading him into some truth, he's still leading them ultimately astray. And that's why he is allowed to succeed. Like Jesus said, the world loves their own. And though he's not getting all the love he thinks he deserves, he's getting more love than the people who follow Jesus. People who truly follow Jesus, not the ones that he's going to say are part of the church and the organization and all those hypocrites, but the ones who are really following Jesus are blocked. You don't really hear about them. You don't hear from them. Like you're hearing from me now, but for how long? I've already been blocked on Facebook for another 30 days, and who knows how long until they're gonna block me permanently there. But yeah, and that's ultimately what it is Jesus. With my stuff, I lead people to Jesus. I'm shut down, censored. He says the same thing, leads people away from Jesus, not censored. Because that's the ultimate issue. That's the ultimate issue. Yeah, they're going to try to lead you away from the flat earth, lead you away from Freemasonry and Zionism and the Vatican. But as long as you're not pointing them to Jesus, they're just going to pretend to be fighting you here. As he brought up where with these shills and what have you, is that it's kind of like with what is it, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage. You think that they are enemies, like The Rock and Stone Cold, but it's just a show they put on, where they're really friends behind the scene, or at least they're mutual co-workers who are indifferent towards each other. They're not really arch enemies of any kind. It's their job, and that's how it is with like the United States and Russia with the Cold War and all that stuff. Is that the leaders are all friends, but they put on this front that everybody's an enemy. It's the same thing like with the NFL, with the football teams. All the owners are working together, making a ton of money, but they pretend their teams are big rivals for the fans, right? And the same thing with the shills. They pretend to be on the side of the truth, side of like the flat earth, and then they spew out all this bullshit to make it look ridiculous. Well, I think this guy is genuine, so I don't think he realizes what he's doing there. And if he ever sees this video or if somebody else talks to him about this, I hope he's humble enough to at least think about it and the possibility that he's wrong, because he seems like a very smart guy, very genuine, and he could actually influence a lot of people, help a lot of people out, get to a lot of people that people like me won't get to. So anyway, thanks for watching. Take care.